Yep.
All right. Let's see. Project Herpetoculture, episode 22. Just a little bit of information. So this is Phil Leitz, joined as always by the ever enigmatic, charismatic, and handsome Roy Arthur Blodgett, all the way from the UK. And so I think now is when Charlie is going to throw in like our little sponsor snippet. But along with that, shout out to Dylan and the Animals at Home Network for hosting our show. Dylan is the GOAT, the legend, and we appreciate all the work he puts in. Am I forgetting anything, Roy? Am I missing anything on that? Because I know we don't have to do a thing in this part of it because they're gonna.
We also have our Patreon.
Oh yes, we have a Patreon page, patreon.com/Project Herpetoculture. Any support that we gain from anybody is greatly appreciated. It helps us continue to do what we do, and also helps us to improve on what we do, because Roy and I have substantial ambitions for not just the show, but what we'd like to see the show grow into and what we want to do in the future. So any kind of support we get in that way, either through the Patreon or through our generous sponsors, is very much appreciated from everybody. But with all of that said and out of the way, I'd like to introduce our guest. Our guest today is Sam Aneca. Sam, thank you so much for coming to talk with us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So for those of the listeners who may not be familiar with you and your work, can you tell us a little bit about what you do and how you fit into herpetoculture?
Yes, of course. I'm a zookeeper at Antwerp Zoo. So we're based in Belgium, of course, in Antwerp. I've only been a zookeeper for since January. And before I was a biology and geography teacher. But I've been keeping herbs for, I think, since I was 10 and I'm now 27, so like 17 years now. And I've always tried to evolve my keeping and to try to work with as many species I can. So that's a little bit my place in herpetoculture.
And how did you get started? Were herps something you were always interested in as a kid, or was there a particular like gateway event or anything like that for you?
Yeah, I think I had different gateway events. Herbs is not in Belgium. It's not. I think Brian Minna also talked about that. It's not like we can find herbs in our backyard. There are herbs in Belgium, but it's not that easy to find them. So it was not like I went into nature and saw this majestic snake, and that was the start of all of it. Definitely not. But I always liked nature, so I grew up at a farm. We didn't have a lot of animals, but we had like a farm with a big garden, and there I collected caterpillars and beetles and everything. And that was maybe the start. And then I also liked. I realized it a lot later, but at school we make this diorama. Do I pronounce it right?
Yeah.
Diorama. Yeah. So you had like a shoebox, and you cut a hole in the top, and then you put some moss in it and sticks, and had like these plastic animals, and you put it in it, and you look through it, and you had like this little world you created, and that was something I really loved to make. And it's only later I realized that maybe that was the beginning point for me of keeping reptiles at home.
Nice.
So I had like that gateway of how you call it, gateway event. And then I also when I was like 7 years old, I just started reading. There's something in Belgium it's called the Gentse Feesten, and it's like in the city of Ghent. It's also like a bigger city in Belgium. They have like celebrations every year, and it was like a little book market, and there I found Terrarium Encyclopedia. That's how you pronounce it, but it's a Dutch one. It's a pretty famous one. And when I bought that book, I never left home without it anymore. So it was like my Bible, so to say. And I still have it. It's totally worn out now. And I think I have 5 different versions of it, always with a different cover, but like the same inside. And I think that was the start for me, looking at herpetoculture. But I was still young. Our parents wouldn't let me keep reptiles at home, so it took some time. And in the meantime, when we went on holiday in the south of France, I was always looking at night with a flashlight for lacertids and geckos, and once felt like a little parking place, the place we stayed in southern France, and I saw like a green tail coming from like an olive tree, and it's only much later that I realized it probably was the tail of like a Judith Lacerda, because they all also live there. So those are all like gateway events. And then when I was 10 years old, I got two like red-eared sliders.
Yeah.
These turtles. Not the best pet to keep, but it's like most of the parents think, oh, lizard, no, snakes, no, turtles is okay. But they make way more difficult pets than most snakes and lizards.
Yes.
So I had these, and those were my first herps. And then when I was 12, I got my first leopard gecko, and then things skyrocketed when I met Brian when I was 15. I already had I met Brian because I had problems. I had one snake. I had a ball python, and it just wouldn't eat. I think it stopped eating for like 2 months. And when you are young, you're like 14, 15 years old. I think I was 14 then. You worry a lot. You think, oh shit, he's gonna die.
Yeah.
But we all know like ball pythons can go out of food for a while. It's not a problem. And so I knew Brian through my family. I think Brian's dad did karate with an uncle of mine.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, because Brian also is into karate. Also, like I think he has a black belt. Yeah,
I had no idea. We didn't.
He's.
Oh man, damn it! Next time
we
have
him
him on,
he was really
that.
still really into martial arts. He had like a katana. And he had like all these martial arts stuff. Yeah. So I met him, and I sent him a message. It was like, hey, help me out. He lives like 30 minutes away from me. And he directly said to me, yes, I can help you. If you want to come over, we can talk about reptiles. No problem. So that is what I did. I stepped on the bus, went to Brian, and since then we were like big friends. Wow. And then also my collection like got way bigger because I had someone to talk to.
Yeah.
To ask questions. The thing I didn't have before. So I think it's really important that you, for all keepers, especially like first-time keepers, you really need like a mentor or someone to talk to discuss things with, to think together, look for solutions when something is not going well. And then I had different animals like the boss monitor in the back of me was a pet of mine, like I already told you before. But I had, I don't know, Herpetoculture, you know that, like the European lizard. I had Varanus glory, like the Kimberley rock monitors. I had Moreda Bradle's carpet pythons, like really cool species, and I kept a lot of them. And yeah, that's how it evolved. And when I left home to live with my previous girlfriend, I had to sell a couple of those animals, but I found good homes, so that's no problem. And then I started teaching, which I really liked. But then I felt, because teaching took a lot of my time, it was like I didn't evolve that much. It was like came to a standstill. All the things I knew, and now since January I work at the zoo, and it blew up again. Not only my head, my thoughts, everything I'm thinking about, but also my knowledge and my skills really increased the last year, and I hope it will keep going that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would definitely like to talk more about your work at the zoo. But before we before we go too much further into that, I would like to just, just sort of brainstorm a little bit more on something that I thought about in lead up to our conversation with you, which is, when we were talking with Brian, and I think it was you who recommended Brian to us.
Yeah.
And then, Brian also mentioned you in the show and all of that. And I just sort of became a little bit captivated by the way friendship influences our time and our methods in herpetoculture. Like I can think back in my own life about dozens of different instances in which a friend, either someone who I was friends with already or someone who I was not friends with but became friends with, made a huge impact on what I do, and in so many different ways. And it's kind of this really interesting kind of ever growing relationship, because as we get deeper into this industry or this field, we meet more people who then inspire us and kind of change us and educate us a little bit further. And I feel like, like Roy has been a person like that in my life already, even though we haven't even met in person, which is still kind of crazy to think about, the fact that
It's so funny.
It's so weird, at this point, because we've become such fast friends. And then, I think about all the people we've had on the show and all the people who I've met sort of through herpetoculture, who continue to just kind of just completely blow my mind in the way that they're thinking about what they're doing, or inspire me in the way that they're, in what they're keeping and in what they're doing. It's just something I wanted to, I don't know if either of you have any thoughts on that in particular. It's just something that I'm really, at the moment, very interested in,
Yeah. Maybe I want to talk about a little bit about it, because Brian's like, I think 4 years older than me. I think 5 years, 4 years, I don't know exactly. But at that time, he was really something I looked up to, because he was the guy who also had snakes and lizards, and he has so much energy. He was always making things, always making new vivarium. So it was absolutely amazing time. We still have an amazing time together, of course. But at that time, I don't think he realized how much impact he made on me. So I never take that for granted. And also when, like, I'm working at the zoo and I see like young people, especially young people, who I sense that they want to ask a question. I'm always going to be the one to ask if they have questions, if they want to know something, because I know that, because I'm a reptile keeper, maybe it will sound a little bit lame, but I know as a keeper, I can make a gateway moment for maybe a young kid, because maybe he's into reptiles, and I don't know, you never know, because but it can make a huge impact. I only, how can I say this? I think about how it would change my life if, like, a zookeeper, reptile keeper, would like take me around and talk about reptiles with me. So when I was young, so I never take it for granted.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Roy, go ahead. I didn't know if I was going to cut you off.
Oh, no, no, it's fine. I'm pretty much just echoing all of that. Just that I think that, there's such like a herpetoculture presents this like really golden opportunity, I feel like, for mentorship in that way, because there is so much that can be learned. It's such an interdisciplinary field. And it's like, I think that like at the root of it is so much wonder and curiosity for everyone involved. And that's just like such fertile ground for making those kinds of connections. And it's just such a valuable thing to, as you said, Sam, like it, like see that in a young person, that kind of enthusiasm and curiosity, and then encourage it. And I think that there, especially with like herpetofauna, there are so many ways in which, our society at large like discourages that kind of interest and curiosity, and kind of can seed fear and all of that. But it doesn't have to be that way. You know, like it feels like beneath that fear, there's always this fascination component and curiosity. And yeah, I always think about that, like working with young people, you know, any opportunities that I have to like, you know, just like help them out, get them on the right path, ask good questions. Like there's so many times in my life that I feel like I've been really enriched by that kind of thing. And it's especially meaningful when it's someone like as you were speaking to about Brian, it's someone you like really can look up to, and who has like so much passion and enthusiasm. That's just such a valuable thing.
Yeah. He has so much energy, you know, and
Yeah.
confidence, and he's articulate, and it's kind of reminds me of what we spoke about in our conversation with Eddie Soto when we were talking about gatekeeping, and how, you know, you can there's so many people who keep reptiles. Well, okay, I don't want to say there's so many people, because I'm not trying to like talk about any specific group of people or anything like that at all. I'm just saying that we've all had that experience where we're curious about something, whether it be a specific species or a specific topic. We ask a question in some circumstance, whether it's on a Facebook group, whether it's in a forum, whether it's in a group of people. And every once in a while, you get a person who kind of condescends to you because you didn't know. You know what I mean? It's like, you should, well, obviously it's this, or, you know, typical newbie or something. You know what I mean? You get people kind of give you a bit of grief around whatever question you've asked. And I mean, I'll be the first to admit that I have been that guy in the past. I mean, a long time ago, you know, certainly not anytime recently, but I went through a phase of being kind of like an arrogant dumbass. I think as maybe all of us occasionally do. I don't know, or at least I did for sure for a long time. And I feel a little bit of shame around that, but more and more I just think about it now as like, okay, that was a mistake. And now I do exactly what you were mentioning, Sam, which is trying to think about everything I do through the lens of like, how is this going to look to someone who maybe is newer or is, you know, peripherally interested in herpetoculture, or who is interested in herpetoculture, but maybe it's a young interest for them, or something along those lines. And it's because I think it will always catch you off guard when you know, years later, you know, sometimes, you know, you might get a message saying, oh, you know, several years ago, you were at this thing and you talked about lizards and it kind of blew my mind. And now I'm interested in reptiles. And I just want to thank you for being a good influence. And it's like, I didn't even know I would have been an influence on anybody. It's, you know, one of those things where you wouldn't even have known in that moment that there was someone who was kind of hanging right at the edge of either diving in full throttle or going some other direction, you know? So I think that's a great orientation to have towards what we do.
Yeah. And we also have to realize that if you look at herpetoculture like a hobby, if you want to play an instrument, you go to like how you call it in Belgium, it's like an academy. If you want to learn an instrument. If you want to learn art, so then you go to like art school. But if you want to learn about herpetoculture, it's also some form of art. We already talked about that in previous episodes. It's not some school you can go to learn the basics. So you have to almost do it with trial and error at home, and you have so much different sources that come at you, like YouTube and a lot of TikTok nowadays also. So if you're a new keeper, you really have to be smart as to like filter the good stuff and the bad stuff of the bad stuff. And so it's not easy. So we always, if someone approaches me with like interest into herpetoculture, I'll always try to help and help them out. And I think you always have to do that. So, or there maybe should be an academy for herpetoculturists. Would also be really nice.
I want that to happen.
I was going to say,
absolutely.
Roy and I have definitely talked about this exact topic, mostly off the show, you know, but we've definitely talked a lot about like, how would an education structure look? What would it look like, you know, for herpetoculture, not for herpetology, right? Because even though it's a little bit more rare, there's already sort of biological degrees set up for focus in zoology and in herpetology and things like that, which is great. And there should be more of that. And that's awesome. But, you know, that other than just being able to go to your local reptile shop and pick up a care guide or pick up a book, there's no, you know, the entry point for new herpetoculturists can be so damn diverse. It can be everything from, I saw some person hanging in a knoll from their ear on TikTok, all the way to, you know, the crocodile hunter, all the way to, you know, I ended up at a reptile expo when I was 10, or, you know, who knows? There's so many ways you can get in there. And it would be so interesting to see how an education structure might be set up for herpetoculture, what that might look like, and how you could sort of deploy that into the world. But that's definitely something that we're probably going to brainstorm for a long time. That's pretty cool. I'd love that. I mean, imagine if you could say, well, I went to the Herpetocultural Institute for 3 years and learned how to. It'd be so cool.
It's not impossible. I think it's definitely not impossible, because if you, I think it's Dr. Zach Loveman.
You're right. I was just gonna mention.
But it's like, it's at a university level, but he has like these herpetoculture classes for his zoo science program. Yeah, and it's amazing. I can only think that it would be amazing if you like start with herpetoculture, and there's like this teacher mentor who has like this workplace where you can make enclosures, and someone who like learns you how to search for scientific papers about your species you want to keep. And it would be so, I think it's definitely possible, but it's not that easy to like distribute it over the whole world.
Right.
You can do it in one place, but not everyone can come to that place, has the money to go to travel far distances.
Well, and so this is really interesting, because I think that there's so we've talked already, both in this conversation and in previous ones, about how herpetoculture is like an art, you know, it's a craft, right? And I was thinking about how, so I come from an art education background. I went to school for drawing and painting. That's what I was, how I got through college. And even though the school structures in traditional university settings for art education are great in some cases, I also think that there's another model, which is the atelier model in art and art education, which is like basically a non-accredited, non-university based education system, but it's highly rigorous and highly effective. And I could very easily see, like, you know, a pretty straightforward curriculum, one that's, you know, like a class where it's like introduction to reptile heating and lighting, introduction to enclosure construction, you know, introduction to dietary considerations in, you know, herpetoculture, blah, blah, blah. And having it be an online atelier system where, you know, you maybe, because there's, you know, because the other thing I've noticed is that actually just this month, I've had maybe half a dozen or so messages from people who live in India asking about how to get reptiles. And I'm like, what? I mean, obviously, of course, there are people all over the world interested in reptiles, but that's new for me. Like I had not, up until this year, I don't think I'd had anyone from India message me just talking about reptiles. And actually all of these guys were asking about Uromastyx in particular, which was remarkable. So it was like, man, okay, so clearly there's going to be, as the world continues to get more and more interconnected, there's going to be more and more people looking to do this exact practice. So all right, well, now we're getting into like business ideas. So excuse me, sorry, I have to cough.
I've long felt that there's so much potential there. Like I think about online courses, and I've even like on my own started to kind of devise what I think would be like an interesting curriculum for approaching herpetoculture and like teaching it on some level. And
Sick.
saying that, like, I don't in any way feel like I'm like an authority or an expert on that at all, but I think that there are definitely things that I've learned that are valuable, you know, that I could convey in a systematized way that would make sense to people. But I think that like also apprenticeships would be such an amazing, that's something else we've mentioned on the show before, but like I love the idea of herpetoculture apprenticeships, you know, having the opportunity to learn, or like internships under you know, a herpetoculturist who's really got clear systems and methods for how they're doing things and has the capacity to teach and convey those things. But it also takes a certain kind of person, you know, because not everyone's a good teacher, you know, and you can be an amazing herpetoculturist and a terrible teacher, you know, so it definitely takes a certain kind of skill set to be able to do that well. And
well, and that's a super important consideration, because you know, if someone is going to be a teacher in a setting where we're trying to educate people about herpetoculture in particular, then you damn well better be a good communicator, not just for the sake of properly conveying the information, but to set a good example, you know. I mean, I don't think any of us are going to disagree about the idea that there are plenty of less than ideal role models within herpetoculture. Right? So it's like, it totally seems like incumbent upon us, maybe not us, well, obviously us, all three of us, but also it seems upon the next generation of herpetoculturists to consider the example we set, not just for the brand new people coming into herpetoculture, but also for people who are not involved in herpetoculture, right? All of those are vital.
What I'm also thinking about is like not only someone who's like a good communicator, but also someone, because that's something I really like about the whole podcast you're making, is someone who learns you how to think, a way to think, not only how to keep something, just this is like a care guide, but someone who makes you like a how to say this, like a person with some criticism, but towards sources and towards yourself and how you keep things, so that it doesn't end after the course, but that you start something and the person who like follows you the course of like the internship keeps thinking about like evolving on himself. So I think that's also really something to think about.
Absolutely. Very well said. It's definitely, it's something I've been thinking about a lot too, because you know, I've definitely met individuals who, you know, they find a formula for what they're doing and then they just repeat themselves over and over again, which is okay. Like I understand why, right? You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm here for that. But also I feel like that, you know, it's a good way to make what we do really, really boring, is, you know, is to not continually try to refine what we do and make things more interesting, not just for ourselves, but for the animals we keep. You know, I feel like actually this has been a topic that's been coming up for me on a personal level, because as I've mentioned to both of you guys before the show, I'm sort of in the process of making some big adjustments and big changes here to my facility, and bringing in some new stuff like these little Pilbara rock monitors, both of them just looking at me, eyeing me down.
Nice.
I love them. There's the coolest lizards I've ever had, hands down. But anyway, they're making those changes, you know, I feel like a long time ago, I sort of thought, okay, if I just get to this point, then I'll be good. I'll just stop there and it'll all be done. And I won't really have to do anything else. It'll just be sort of the routine. And I'm realizing that like, I'm not really sure I'm ever going to hit that kind of point, because it's just not the person that I am, you know, like I really have a strong desire to continue taking on new challenges and continue finding new ways to engage with the animals that I keep, the ways that I keep them, a continual upgrade of the kind of goals that I have for them, you know, like, you know, I've got my Egyptians, and you know, for a long time the goal was just to breed them. And then that happened a few times, and now it's like that's not really that. I mean, obviously I'm going to keep doing it to a degree, but it's just, that's not really that interesting anymore. Now it's like, okay, how can I make them happier? How can I how can I see better results in their overall health? Like how can I make my interaction with them more rewarding for me and for them, not just, you know, not just base level care metrics, you know, like what can I learn from these animals that are in my care, who, if I just continue to do the same thing over and over with them, all right, like they'll probably just keep breeding, but like what else, right? These animals have probably had a lot more to say and a lot more to tell me. If I just like pay the fuck attention, right?
Yeah. There's something that comes to mind for me right now. This like saying that this, well, I'm not sure if it comes from this person, but it's something that I've heard him say. He's a storyteller named Martin Prechtel, and he says, information is not knowledge, and knowledge does not wisdom make. And I love that, because I feel like it kind of in some ways describes a little bit of some of the conundrums we face in herpetoculture, where we're kind of awash in information.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot less knowledge, and there's a lot less wisdom, and that's kind of, you know, that's true, I think, in any field probably, but that there can be kind of a conflating of those things, like what you're saying, Sam, about like teaching how to think about herpetoculture rather than like I think that it's very common to just give the formula. Here's the recipe, which I feel like is like, that's in like the information category, you know, but I think it's a lot more empowering to teach people how to make their own formula, you know, and that feels like it's more in the knowledge category of things. And I think the wisdom maybe is like learning how to then like refine that process, and, you know, cut away the fat and make it lean and effective without totally killing it.
And I think like the whole like designing and tinkering in your head, it's like the coolest thing about herpetoculture. Like I've been to Morocco with Brian, Alara. I've seen herps in the wild, and it's amazing to see them in the wild, but it's not everything for me. I think the combination of keeping them in captivity and like always thinking, I always have like this like a notebook with me, and to write stuff down, and every night I have something I want to search, and the first hour in my bed I won't be sleeping. I will be like thinking in my head. Sometimes I get out of bed again and I have to like measure things up in my reptile room, and that's the most addictive part of the whole hobby, I think, of the whole culture, to always keep excited about something new, something good you can do for your animals, something cool you can do with your exhibits. So just setting up an animal, that's actually for me kind of boring. It's always like, what can I do now? And previously, before I knew the podcast, that excitement came from like new animals. But now I'm much more focused on the things I have and how I can increase that. And it's something that I've already heard with other people. But it has a big impact, because I was on the Zookeepers Congress, not I think 4 weeks ago, and I was talking to another reptile keeper in the zoo of Rotterdam in the Netherlands, and another guy joined the conversation. He was a panda keeper, also from a zoo in the Netherlands, and he was like, "Oh, I'm also interested in reptiles. I have a ball python and I have a crescent gecko."
Cool.
And then he was talking about that he wanted to get more species, but that he now is investing more time and also money in his current setups. And he has now a fogging system, and he made his own tanks. And then he said, yeah, I'm also like installing these Arcadia lamps.
Yeah.
And I was like, do you listen to podcasts sometimes? And he was, yeah, I listen to podcasts. And I was like, which podcast? He was like, Animals at Home. And I was like, yeah. So that's, yeah, but he said if I didn't start listening at that podcast, I probably kept buying new animals and not looking at my current setups. And now he's trying to evolve with his current setup. So it has a big, the podcast has a big impact on the way people think about their keeping. So
wow,
doing a great job.
That's really cool. It's always so fun when you encounter people from who are far away, or at least seemingly far away, right? And they turns out they're interested in a lot of the same things you are. That's I always find that so rewarding. It's super
yeah, absolutely.
Well, so with some of this, so with the education piece of things kind of coloring the conversation at the moment, how can you tell us a little bit about like how the job at the zoo came to be? Like, you know, because I'm imagining, you know, like a litany of prerequisite that you might need to have in order to get a job at a zoo. At least that's what's in my mind. So does that apply for you? Or like, how did your education and what you do land you in that position?
Yeah, absolutely. I studied 2 years of biology when I was like 18 and 19 years old. But I really suck at math. Math is not my friend. So and also physics and yeah, all things with like numbers is not my best friend. But afterwards, I knew I wanted to teach, because I like to entertain people also a little bit, and especially with young people, because I work together with Brian and Lara. I also gave workshops and also camps with Repti School, and I felt I could have an impact on these young people. So then I studied to become a teacher, and I became a teacher at the school I also went to when I was young. So it was really cool. I teach for 4 years, and but I felt that I could make an impact on these young people, but I've also felt that I couldn't invest the time into me evolving and having like an impact on more the reptile side, the reptile amphibian side, which I really wanted to do. I really wanted to have an impact on something for reptiles, for people who want to work with reptiles and amphibians. And then there was then I started following a course at the college. I don't know, it's like some sort of university, the little it's a degree lower, I think. So it's like a college, I think. I started studying animal care, but the funny thing, most of the time it's about horses and dogs and cats, of course. And the only part about reptiles was given by Brian and Laura, which I normally would assist sometimes. Yeah. So I was like in my own class, but I also was assisting like my own class, and I was yeah. So I had some experience like teaching with Repti School. I had worked with a lot of species at home as a herpetoculturist, so also with other friends who keep other reptiles. And then I had started like these animal care classes. And then suddenly I was on the lookout for a job at the zoo, a zoo enter, because for me, it's a majestical place, because I always went there when I was a kid. And suddenly, like last year in October, there was a job that was free to become like a reptile keeper, an amphibian and an invertebrate keeper, like an arthropod keeper, like call it like that way. And I was so excited. You can't imagine how excited I was. So I started writing sort of a letter, but I went all the way. I just went all the way. I told everything I knew, everything I did. I put photos in it. It was like not the way you're supposed to do it. But they liked it, and I got a job interview. And the first thing they said was like, "Your letter was impressive." Like, yeah, it would kill me if I would know that because if I had a boring letter that I wasn't, I didn't get the job. So I went all the way full option with the letter, and I got the job interview, and a month later I could start. So I had to say goodbye to my students, fortunately. But they already visited the zoo, and I sometimes go back to the school to visit them. So it's really cool. So it's just by doing stuff, by being active in herpetoculture, that I landed the job, not because of qualifications, like not no diplomas or other things. So yeah, I always encourage people to do as much. If you're interested in something, do as much as you can in your free time, in your spare time. Learn as much, because having a degree is one thing, but having a passion, with me it's more like an obsession. I think it's the same for you guys. But it's more important than having a degree. Really, it's a way of life almost.
I love that. That's such a cool story.
That's how I landed the job.
That's great. And so what are your like sort of daily responsibilities at the zoo look like?
We have a team of 5. We have a nice team of 5 people take care of the reptiles, amphibians, and the arthropods. And it differs from day to day. We have like a rainforest site at the zoo. We have like a desert site, and we have like the amphibians. And every morning we come together. Most of the time we are working with 3 or 4 people of the team of 5, because we always work 5 days a week. And then we just say, what do you want to do today? And I like to say, I want to do the amphibians that day. So you have like that's like the daily work, but everyone also has like his projects and his people who collect most of the data and put it in Zims. Zims is some sort of software we use at zoos to collect data, which is really helpful, because you can see like statistics like the growth of your animal, the weights, and the vet also can put information in it. So it's really like a really good system to work with. And then me personally, I'm more like passionate about exhibit design. So making it as natural as possible. Work with live plants, because we now don't work with live plants in every exhibit, because of like big snakes trash everything and it costs money. But I'm really searching for ways to maybe incorporate live plants in the future. Also education, because I'm a teacher, I want to improve the education, because I think we're lacking a bit when it comes to education. And I'm also more of a lizard guy, I would say. So also the lizards from the more desert type area is more my kind of So I've always been a monitor guy, but also like mastics and koalas and desert iguanas, and also skinks. I'm really like passionate also about this Australian herps. So it's that's more my side of our team, I would say.
Excellent. Yeah, I've been perusing and paying attention to your Instagram, and those 2 chuckwallas or at least the 2, I don't know if there's more than 2 or what, but the chuckwallas you guys have look fantastic, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're absolutely.
Yeah, we have 3, but one really old chuckwalla that's like not moving as well anymore, because he's old. Yeah, he's just really old, but he's in the same exhibit. He's doing his own little thing. We have like the couple, and we have 3 eggs now in the incubator, and they can hatch at any moment now.
All
So we're really
right.
excited because baby koalas are the cutest things in the world.
They are
Oh yeah.
so damn cute. It's kind of gross how cute they are, actually.
Yeah.
They're just so adorable, and when they puff up at you, and oh my God, I love just out of mere curiosity, how old is the old one?
Oh, I'm not certain how old he is exactly. I would check. I would have to check the records to know
Okay.
that.
I was just
But he's. I think he's and is at the end of his life. I would
Yeah.
sure.
put it
Yeah,
like that.
I'm always really curious about that because chuckwallas and Uromastyx, considering their similarities, I've heard lots of tales of chucks living into their 20s, their mid 20s, like 25 or approximately. And I wonder, I always wonder if that's like the genuine far end of their lifespan, or if they can live longer. And then same thing with Euros, because there's I know there's one record of a Moroccan and Uromastyx nigroventris that or maybe it was Acanthin at the time, I can't remember, but that lived more than 50 years in captivity. And it's like, Jesus Christ. And apparently the thing was an adult when it came into captivity already.
Wow.
So
Right.
good Lord, and so I'm always curious to see the more long-lived examples of both Sauromalis and Uromastyx in captivity, because when people say, oh, they'll live like 15 years, I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure they live a lot longer than that.
Yeah, a lot longer. Yeah.
Way longer, way longer. No, that's great. That's super
I will
cool.
look. I will look it up for you. I can
Yeah,
send
definitely.
you.
I'm super interested
I'm
to
really
know.
curious.
Yeah, just
We also have Uromastyx at the zoo. We have a couple of ornates, and we have an Acantinura, so a single female.
all right.
Nice.
Not that many
Very cool.
species, but two is a good start.
Hey, any Euro is a good Euro,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe interesting for you, we keep our Acantinura Euro in a mixed exhibit.
Oh, really? With what?
Yeah. We have like these different mixed exhibits. We have one from Australia, one from the Arizona area, the area you live, and we also have like some sort of North Africa area, and we keep them together with plated lizards.
Ooh.
Yes, but the Continura, the Uromastyx is the big boss.
I bet it is. Yeah.
Yeah, he really is. And also Schneider skinks,
Oh, yeah.
like Eumeces schneideri, which are the animals with the biggest balls in the universe. Because they, we have like this big Chelosaurus validus, these big plated lizards. We have like the Uromastyx, but the little skinks really just go and take the food out of their mouth. It's crazy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because we when we give like grasshoppers and crickets, we take the Uromastyx out of the enclosure because it's not so good for him to eat that many protein. But then these little skinks, I have to watch where I put my feet, because I would just walk on them, because they really almost start to run up your legs almost to get to the grasshoppers or the cricket. Yeah, they're crazy. I didn't know that these skinks were so crazy, but they definitely have the biggest balls of all our animals at the zoo, I think.
That's awesome. That is so cool.
Yeah, and it's like also a species that not well. I remember from the episode with Philippe de Vogely. There's also these species like the Eumeces. I don't know how you pronounce it in English.
Yeah.
That's not well established, which is
sure.
because they are really hardy species.
That was the first lizard I ever had was a Schneider skink.
Oh,
when I was a little kid, I had one for a long time. Yeah, it was a really hardy lizard.
Yeah,
but I haven't seen any, and gosh, I probably haven't seen one for more than a decade. I mean, I see them online, but in person, I never see them anymore.
In Europe, we still see a lot of like African imports, so
yeah,
see them sometimes, but they're less common than before, definitely.
Wow, it's always so weird to think about what causes a species to sort of gain traction in captivity. I mean, I'm sure there's probably loads of different causes, but timing, I mean, timing to me feels like a huge factor that is difficult to consider, because there's just certain things that it's like, how long have Uromastyx been in captivity before it's like all of a sudden it's like there's this big burst of popularity, or any other animal. It's really bizarre.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So I have a question for Sam. In addition to the species that you're working with at the zoo, you do still have a small collection at home too, right?
Yeah.
So what are you keeping at home?
Right now I'm keeping I'm mainly focused right now on keeping and trying to breed Woma pythons.
Nice.
It's a species I've had a single male since, I don't know, 2016. And I really love the temperament of the snakes and the behaviors. So I got 3 more, like another male and 2 females in June. I went to the ham show. It's also something I've been doing for years, to go to there, and I got like a trio from really great people from Denmark, and now I'm cycling them. So I'm cooling them, not too much, but just a little bit. And I've seen they've already, how you say, copulated.
Yeah.
So that's a good sign. So we'll see in spring if I have eggs, because it's something I really want to try to do. I don't know if I want to do it for years, so I don't know. But I initially wanted to do that because of you don't see as many womas anymore on the market, and I think that's, yeah, I love the species so much. I think it's also like a fairly good hardy snake, even for beginners, because it don't get very big. Humidity is not really a problem because it's a desert species. It eats most of the time, but it's also not really like aggressive, because I also had like bull snakes. I really love bull snakes also. And wolf snakes, they also always eat, but it's not the best pet snake for the beginning snake. So I think like a Woma is like almost like a perfect, the Woma I had for several years, it was like the perfect snake for me. So I really want to try that and see. I'm definitely not a big breeder, absolutely not, or even a breeder. So I'm not very good at selling animals. I think I hate selling animals. So it's such a weird thing to do, because you're like always a little bit critical to the customers. Sometimes you have like customers you think, they really want to sell this animal.
Of course.
But then you also have to like be a mentor to those customers and give as much information as you can do, of course. But that's something I want to try to do. And other than that, I have a blue-tone skink. I've also had for years. I have a green tree python. I have these rough-scaled Indian sand boas. I have a couple. Really, really cool species, but you don't see them as much, only at night, of course, because they're a nighttime species. I have milk frogs. I have had my white street frogs for 12 years now. I think 12 years. Yeah, they're also. I think white street frogs are also one of the best pets and famous in the world. They're amazing.
They're so cool.
Yeah, they are amazing.
So cool. I only feed them also with like thongs. I feed them by hand. I feed them. They're always like on the lookout. When the lights go off, they always directly they come and take a look whether they can catch something. So people are always afraid of snakes, but the real predators are the frogs. They are crazy. So
they are wild.
That's it. I have leopard geckos. I still have my first leopard gecko for when I was 12 years old. So it's now 7.
Nice.
It's now, how old is now?
15 then? You said
15,
27.
Yes, now 15. I already said mathematics is not my best friend. So it's now 15 years, and it's still like the alpha female of the group. So she's doing great. So I hope maybe she can go to 20 years. We'll see.
Yeah,
But I think that's it for now. Yeah. But the thing is, I don't know if I will keep these species in the future. I've been on the last year. I've really been thinking about my keeping, and if you work at a zoo where every animal has like almost a room-sized enclosure, and you come home and you look at your animals and see these animals like smaller cages, it almost breaks your heart. So I've really been thinking how I want to do things in the future, and I've been really interested in outdoor keeping. So it's something I've been looking into much lately, but not with species I have, because you can keep green-tooth pythons outdoor in Belgium. But it's really something I want to like evolve to. Maybe that will mean I have to sell some of my animals or give them to people who want to continue with that species. But I have like this barn at the end of my garden. It's like, I don't know how big it is. I think 30 foot. I have to 30 foot. Yeah, 30 foot by 15 foot. I think it's so almost like 10 meters by 5 meters big, like surface area. And I want to get rid of the barn because it's totally rotten. It has to go into the, I don't know how you call it, container. And I really would love to like build a greenhouse. And try to set up some sort of combination of keeping European species in there, like Jute Lacerda is something I really want to keep, but also like painted agamas, I think you call them, like Agama stelio. I really love those. And keeping them in a setting where I also can like grow greens and vegetables. This may be something weird to think about, but it would be so cool if you like also take vegetables and greens and fruits that also like are Mediterranean and like some sort of keep them in breed these crops in some sort of natural behavior, because we also want to do our garden is also some sort of like Mediterranean style of like a Mediterranean vibe. And if the berries are ripe to eat for me, the lizards can also eat the berries. It would be so cool, because I saw that you also do it with your polychrus. Is it called polychrus? So it's so cool to see, and that was also something that sparked me. It was like, which animals can I keep in our climate, or maybe outdoor in the greenhouse, and maybe I can also eat some of the herbs, and they can also eat like the herbs. Like you have a lot of Mediterranean herbs you use in the kitchen. I love Italian food, and some rosemary and thyme and all those things, and basil. So it's something I really want to try to do in the future. And one of the species I absolutely want to work with is again, is like the Scaltopusic,
they're so interesting.
European legless lizards. I had one before, and there are I don't know, one of my favorite herbs all time. They're crazy. Absolutely crazy.
They're
I had
so
one,
cool.
and his name was Vladimir. Because you also, you have like they call him the Russian legless lizard, because they also are found like the south of Russia. So his name was called Vladimir, and and he was amazing. He was the escape artist, although he has no legs. He was escape artist number one. And one time he escaped from his terrarium, and I was like, oh shit, I have to find him. And I was searching all over the house, and he actually was watching me search for him, and he was just laying on some pillow. I had like pillows, carrots in the corner. So not a place you would start searching for. I was looking on all the closets, under every little corner, where it's dark and maybe moist and I don't know, warm. But he was like chilling, like almost on the couch, looking at me. And
I love it.
Yeah, he's so smart. He was so smart. It's amazing. So I would really try to maybe keep these also in some sort of a cohabitation greenhouse and maybe find a way to breed them, because I haven't found any records of people breeding these species. I have found some papers on that they took eggs away from the wild, from the nature, and they like put them in an incubator. That they already did, but they haven't really found a way to breed those. And maybe is a big greenhouse is the way to do it. I don't know. So that's something I really I'm doing a lot of research. I'm really excited about, because what I already said, it's something that I'm really passionate about, is like tinkering and designing and always thinking about a system, how to do stuff. And I think like a greenhouse where I can benefit from, where these animals can live in a big place, and maybe I can interact with these animals, is like a more of holistic way of thinking of keeping these animals. And then I wouldn't feel guilty when I come home from the zoo, and I can even give them a bigger enclosure at home. So yeah, something for the future.
That sounds amazing. Yeah, I'm so inspired by that kind of that style of keeping, the kind of greenhouse style, and I'm actually really curious to try that, experiment with that a little bit here in California. I'm not sure if it would be possible where I live, but I think it'd be worth trying it on a small scale just to see how it would go, and like you say, experiment and tinker a little bit and see if it's possible, because yeah, it's just much less common here in the US than it is in Europe. And I think it has a lot of potential.
Yeah, of course. I was actually very surprised to find out that actually quite some people are doing it also in Europe. And maybe a little shout out to the guys from like Celtic Amphibians and Reptiles, of Reptile Amphibian, what they're doing. Because it's also by listening to their conversations that I was also inspired from, maybe I can do something with European species, and maybe in the future, like keep more like endemic species. It's now not legal in Belgium to keep endemic species from Belgium. But if there's something that works, maybe there are ways to get permits to help, like in conservation. Sort of way for the Belgian herbs, so they're like more European herbs that need some help. So yeah, that's really cool. So there are a lot of people that are already doing it. It's something for the future, maybe this coming summer that's coming.
Have you seen the this is a total aside, but have you seen the video of the Herpetoculture eating the snails on the grass? Like, it's this beautiful video. I love that video. It's just it's just very carefully grasping them and taking them off the grass. And when I saw that, I was like, I want to keep these. These are so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. They make, I think, in a big setup with enough things to keep them busy, like giving them real live snails and stuff, and also like giving them a big mixed setup with lots of micro habitats. It's really a way to go with these animals, and a big layer of soil, because they like to dig, of course. Yeah, that would be amazing. And like if I had a system where I grow vegetables, snails always come to your vegetables.
Oh, of course. Yep.
If you have then a Herpetoculture who eats the snails from a vegetable, it would be amazing, right? So
you've got your own closed loop system.
Yeah. It now like sounds amazing and perfect, but probably when it's in real life, it's a little bit more
complicated.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So are there other ways that that your work at the zoo and then your private keeping kind of overlap, or are there ways that like, do you ever get, like, I guess there's going to be a few questions here. So do you ever feel overwhelmed, like where you spend your day working at the zoo, working with animals, and then you come home and you have more animals to work with and to care for? Does that ever overwhelm you, or is it just more fun because it's like, oh, I get to do it all the time? Or do you ever get like a little bit of burnout or anything like that?
not burn out, but I think before I worked at the zoo, like the animals I kept were the only animals I kept, so it was like my life, I would say. And
Yeah.
now my time and my interest is maybe weird to say, but my interest is also like gone to more species, because I'm also like at home researching about the species at the zoo, so I'm not always like busy with the species I keep. So it kind of, it's not always like when I come home I think, oh nice, I have to clean some more cages.
Yeah,
So
sure.
it's more difficult. That's also something why I'm maybe going to look into keeping animals outdoor, and maybe like selling some of my animals I keep indoors here, because I yeah, it's something that's it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, of
Oh
course.
yeah. Yeah.
I also ride my bike to the zoo, so it's like 1 hour riding with my electric bike to the zoo, and then when I come back it's also like an hour. So you lose 2 hours riding bikes, but then you have a lot of time to listen to podcasts, of course.
Sure.
So sometimes it's much. So I feel I definitely don't have the feeling that I want to keep more species. Of course, absolutely not. Very more interested in like instead of like something you also talked about, instead of being like a generalist, also become more like of a specialist in some uh, particular species which really interest me. That would be like Scheltopustic, maybe try to breed with species like that if it's possible. Probably it will be possible. But it's sometimes hard, of course. So that's a fact.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Are there ways, excuse me, are there other ways that, like, you mentioned working at the zoo and then coming home and then feeling like, man, maybe I need to like upgrade some of my cages, or, maybe make them a little bit larger. Are there other ways that your work at the zoo has influenced your private keeping?
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to feeding, I didn't beforehand, before I worked at the zoo, I wasn't at home really gut loading my insects the right way, I think, or maybe not enough. So that's something I really looked into way more at home. But maybe to turn things around, I also think a lot of ways of keeping my animals at home also like had a big influence on how things are going at the zoo, because I think I'm the only person of our team who's really like connected with the community, because I'm other than one colleague of mine who keeps like bearded dragons, and also like Pogon and Henry Lawsony, like the smart pygmy bearded dragon. The other keepers don't keep animals at home, don't keep herps at home.
Oh, wow.
Which
Interesting.
yeah, which I can understand, because it's a lot of work at the zoo already. But that also isolates them a little bit. They're also really, they do a great job, and we're an amazing team, and we always strive to do better. And they're always also working with scientific research and looking for new ways to do things. But I still have like the link with the herpetoculture community. So like we have like a frog room where we breed different species of dart frogs and tree frogs, and the lining system was really old, and I was like the one who said maybe we should go for the Arcadia system, like because I hear from a lot of people in the hobby that work with these lamps that that's a really good systems, the Arcadia systems, like the Jungle Dance together with the T5 kits for UVB. And yeah, so that's my link. If I wasn't the person I think who came up with like that's a good system, maybe it wouldn't be something they reached out to, because we work a lot with which is also good companies, with Zoomet, and we work with Exotara, because there are brands that our suppliers can supply. Because if you work at a zoo, it's not like I want to use that material and those products. It's not that easy because you have suppliers, and suppliers can get some different products from different brands, but not all brands, because then you have to look for new suppliers. But like the people who take care of the suppliers at the zoo, if they say, yeah, but you already have a supplier who supplies some lighting systems, that's also good. So they're not always like you can choose whatever products you want. So it's not that easy always.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's not when you have Herbs at home, you want new system for lighting, you just buy the new system, you install it, and ta-da! Like in a week you have a new system. If you want to do it at the zoo, you first have to have like a budget. You have to say why you want a new system. Then it has to go. You have to go search who can supply that system. Does that person want to be official supplier? Yes or no? Because that's something that they also have to consider. And then it has to be installed, and maybe some takes also some time. So sometimes they can last a year until you have like and it's sometimes it's a little bit frustrating, I can say. Because when you're like really fired up, not fired up, but like really enthusiastic about something new, when it's installed, you sometimes already forgotten about it. How to
totally.
say so. It's not the best way I'm telling this, but you get what I mean.
Oh yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah,
absolutely.
Something to keep in mind.
What was you said earlier when you were starting on this, you were mentioning that you said that you changed the way you gut load your feeder insects after you started working at the zoo?
Yeah.
Can you tell me what you were doing before and then what you're doing now?
I was before I wasn't really like a really good gut loader. I was like, I give them some apple and some oranges, but it's like full of sugar. So now I'm much more into like carrots and other stuff that has a lot more of the nutrients that are valuable for your reptiles. Like sugar is not something that your reptiles really need, and I think we can all agree on that. Or maybe not in high dose. So that's only one thing, but especially I think the biggest impact is like enclosure size. That's something, but it's not something I can really. I can't just say to my girlfriend, I want all the rooms in the house and make like a desert ceramic of that room and like a rainforest ceramic. It's not possible, of course.
Oh, come on. You know, just I can relate to that. That's a good point. It's pretty weird how I mean, even just visiting. So I'll go to the Denver Zoo here from time to time and visit Troy Baumgartner, who's also been on the show.
I really, when he was talking to you in the podcast, I recognized a lot of things and frustrations when he was talking. So, but it was a really, really nice and interesting conversation with Troy.
Yeah, I agree. And he's another example of somebody who is passionate, dedicated, enthusiastic, confident, articulate. He has all those things going for him. And man, you want to talk about another dude who just seems to have no end for a desire to mess with reptiles, because I know he's working at the zoo. He works at a local shop, I think part-time, and he keeps a pretty substantial collection at home. So it's like
commitment right there, dedication.
That is raw commitment and dedication, which is quite admirable. And so what was I going to say? Troy. Yes. So what I was going to say is that even just visiting him at the Denver Zoo is like absolutely inspiring, because I'll go there and I'll see, he usually gives me like a little tour and get to see kind of what's going on backstage, as it were. And it's really, really, really fun to go there, see stuff that he's working on, and then come home and be like, what could I what could I change? This is actually, I could probably put something like that right here, or, I could buy that same damn container and I could use that instead of what I've got now, something like that. It's really fun, and motivating and inspiring. And so, when you were mentioning before, actually, I forgot to ask this question when you brought it up, when you mentioned the multi-species exhibit with the Moroccan Euro and the other the skinks and everything that's all sort of sharing one space. How big of a space is that exhibit approximately?
I think it's like 10 feet by, I don't know, 10 feet by 6 feet, 7 feet. So it's but the thing is with the mixed exhibits, you really have to search for ways to like give every species its own layer.
Yeah.
We also have the Arizona exhibit. We have Gila monsters who live at the bottom. We have like these little heights. It's a big like concrete design that's installed, but there are heights in the concrete, and we keep those moist. So you have high humidity, because they live at the bottom. Then you have the layer on top. It's like the layer where the chuqualas live and the desert iguanas live. They don't go very high, so they go to like a meter and a half, like the bigger sheets of concrete where they can walk onto. And then also we keep Scyloporus, cyanogenes, so like with the black color and like the blue colorations. And these live at the high end, so they live at the high end of the exhibit. So in that way, every species and every animal has its own height, his own place where they bask. Every species has its own place where they can get UVB and the heating they need. So I think that's also the way how you have to keep animals in an exhibit where you keep multi-species together. Multiple species together. And in Africa, the Africa exhibit, the North Africa exhibit, it's the same way. Like the plate lizards live in like small crevices, like higher places, and the Euromestics lives everywhere. He just hangs and goes. Yeah, you're crazy. I already told so. And like the skinks live in we have places with like more loose substrate like sand, and they live more in those places. So every species, and most of the time every animal has its own place, because all the plate lizards, I know perfectly where every plate lizards is during the day, because they all have their own heights, and it works well. We don't see a lot of big trouble there. So it's really cool, and it's also enriching. It's something people will worry about, but it's also quite enriching for the animals, because most of the time they hang out together. Like the chuqualas are hanging out with the desert iguanas, and the chuqualas just run over the Gila monsters, and the Gila monsters don't mind at all. And the Scyloporus, I've already seen like a Scyloporus like furs on the back of the chuquala. They don't mind. Yeah, so it's so cool to see, and also for like the visitors, because you want to connect people with nature when they come to the zoo. And nature is not just one species lived there and one species lived there. You want to show like a biotope of like a system that's like something they could see in nature. So it's cooler to show multi-species exhibits to people, I think.
Yeah. No, that's another interesting topic. I mean, I know that I kind of harp on and on about solo housing, for at least for the Euros, which I mean, it sort of has its purpose here, but it doesn't mean I'm in any way opposed to mixed species enclosures or terrariums or habitats or anything like that at all. It's just that I get freaked out when I think about having to manage so many different needs in one space. And maybe that's just sort of immaturity on my part, because, when I think about a mixed exhibit, all I can think about is like, well, what happens if this happens, and I get really worried. Like, what happens if this Euromastix just mutilates this damn skink or something like that? Because they can. I've seen them do it to each other. And so it always makes me a little bit nervous, but again, not in a way that I think it's bad, but it's one of those things where I wonder about, are there specific policies or things that you have to change? Say, like, let's say you have one exhibit where it's just, there's one animal in that exhibit. And let's say something happens with that animal, you can, if it maybe gets sick or something like that, you can pull it out, put it into a quarantine, treat it, and place it back in its exhibit. But I would imagine that maybe it's a little bit different if you have a mixed exhibit. If something goes wrong with one animal, then you have something to consider. You have all the rest of the animals to consider, right? Are there particular protocols in place for that at the zoo for how to address when a problem comes up in a mixed exhibit?
We were lucky to at the zoo we don't have like a lot of trouble with like how to say parasites or like other viruses. We don't have that problem, so that would be a big problem if you had a problem like that.
Yeah, sure.
If there's an animal that has an injury or something, they just go to the quarantine room. We have like a place especially for like animals that come in have to go through quarantine period, but also a place for animals that are injured, and so they just are separated for a time until they're recovered, and then they go back if it's nothing with parasites. Otherwise it's testing, and like our vet, then we have to go to the vet and maybe they get a treatment for like parasites, and then you have to test a lot, and yeah, that's the way it goes. Like a lot of fecal samples to collect then, but but it's not really an issue at the moment. So yeah, and I hope it stays like that.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, cross the fingers for that. Yeah, definitely I would hate to see that change for some reason. It's
yeah.
One of those things that I think about sometimes, with regard to.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, the mixed species exhibits is something we're always looking if everything is going all right. When it's not like it has worked for the last 10 years, it will keep working. So it's something you always have to look. We always look at the behaviors of the animals. If every animal is eating well. Like I said before, all animals are all lizards are weighed once every 6 months. Snakes also. With the tortoises and turtles, it's one in every 3 months, I think, or some tortoises every month, because it's harder to see if they lost weight with the shell they have, of course.
Right.
So we keep data, we keep records of the animals. So that gives us a good view on every animal, and when you want to like isolate an animal because it's not doing well.
Sure.
So yeah, that's the way we work.
Interesting. So are there and this might be a bit of a shift or a slight change in topics. I think one common theme, one thing that we ask a lot of people on the show is sort of what their broad interpretation of herpetoculture, what they're seeing sort of broadly in the industry. And so I'd be curious to know if you have any thoughts or criticisms or things about herpetoculture in general that you'd like to see changed. And that could be anything from, we've had people say, oh, I'd love to see rack keeping disappear, or whoa, excuse me. That came out of nowhere. Just had to sneeze. Crazy. Sorry, excuse me. But
no problem.
Yeah, but or just anything in general. I'm just sort of curious because I think this is something, and I don't want to get. Oh man, Jesus. All right.
Do you have to say bless you? Do you have to say bless
you?
Yeah,
that's yeah. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if something just made me allergic or what, but I hope that question makes sense, you know, because, and I don't mean to, I'm not trying to take like a negative slant. It's just something I'm really curious about, you know, if there, because I think all of us have our gripes and our criticisms about the way things are done. And I think kind of airing those out can be helpful sometimes.
Yeah, no, it's a clear question, no problem. When it comes to technology, I think we're improving a lot in the last years.
Sure.
I think there's a lot that's going to improve in the years that are to come. But for me personally, and I've already talked about it, it's like enclosure size. I think that's a big thing. And I think I already talked about I will try to keep different species in my garden. I think, and you also already talked about it in another episode, I think, Phil, is that we might have to look what animals we can keep at the climate you live in, and you can give them a way bigger space if you do that. And if you live in Florida, I think it's way more easy to do things that way, and most of the keepers keep animals outdoors. But like in Europe, it's not common, and I think because we all love something exotic, but a lot of new, I think new herpetoculturists who start in the hobby don't know about keeping reptiles in a greenhouse. Don't know about the jeweled lacerdas. They know about leopard geckos and know about corn snakes, and they know. So I think it's something to really. I don't want to promote it because I don't know enough about it. Maybe it's way more complicated than I think, and it's probably complicated. But I think we in the future we should think about which climate we live in, because here in Europe we have like this energy crisis.
Oh yeah.
I don't think is it the same in the United States also?
Yeah, in the sense that the cost of energy is becoming astronomical. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Belgium is the same also with like the war in Ukraine.
Yeah, of course.
The gas prices are crazy. So I think if you want to look at more sustainable keeping, lower costs, bigger enclosure for the animal, more enriching environment for the animal. Also, like nothing better than the sunshine. You can build greenhouses. You can have mesh parts. You can have like you already have like UV. How do you say it? UV transmitting plexi of polycarbonates. So you have all these solutions. So I think people have to look more to outdoor keeping. I think that is maybe the future of like really good way of keeping herbs. And I absolutely don't want to say that it should be permitted. Not permitted is not the right word. People shouldn't keep exotic species. Absolutely not. But I think we should promote it more. Bring it to a broader audience, that outdoor keeping is something that's possible if you really look into it, and we also have some amazing species, European species, but I probably think it's also possible in California to keep, like you can find species in your backyard.
Oh yeah,
like garter snakes and what's all in the.
Oh my gosh, there's amazing diversity of stuff here. There's California king snakes and gopher snakes and
and if you just
all sites.
Go and look to other places in the world that have like the same climate or like geographical and the same how do you call it,
latitude.
Latitude. Yeah, that's the right word. Thank you. Then you'll find some more species you can work with, and you can give them the perfect cycle. Like you give them seasons. My animals now don't really have seasons. Suddenly from November to December they have like a half an hour less light, but that's not really season. So you just increase the light time and temperature, but it's not really season. It's not like the sun coming up and going down, and it's not like. Also, I have like the randomness in like the weather. Sometimes it's summer, but then you have a few days it's cooler. our animals don't feel that of like some wind, some airflow, more airflow. I think that's all. Yeah, I think we can enrich the animals' life, but also like the people's life a little bit more with outdoor keeping. So I think that's something I think that should be brought to a broader audience. And I'll try my best. If I start doing it, I will try to really educate everyone about it. But I'm absolutely not mastering it right now. So that's something for the future.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a great answer. You know, it's something I think about a lot here in the, you know, at least in Colorado anyway, because it's kind of difficult here because there's a lot of regulation around keeping native species, right? So
it's the same in Belgium.
Oh, it's against. Oh, I didn't realize. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so it's against the law. So if I would want to keep species, it would be like from the Mediterranean area.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I wish it wasn't the case. I think it'd be really cool to have some capability to go out and keep stuff that we have here totally legally. You know, there's so many cool animals here in Colorado in particular. I mean, everywhere really has really cool stuff, but you know, there's so I live in sort of Denver, so it's a little bit east of the mountains, but it's like a 20-minute drive to get up into the hills. And when you get up into the hills, you see some garter snakes, some rattlesnakes, a few things like that, a few little high altitude, I think whiptails and stuff like that. But one of the coolest ones are these little, I think they're Scoloporus, right? Like a little fence lizard type thing, and they're all over the rocks up here in the mountains. And those lizards are not just incredibly cool, but just bulletproof. I mean, just jacked. I mean, they're so small, but they survive. I mean, it gets freaking cold here, right? And it would be so cool to be able to sort of, in some legal way, have them set up in a greenhouse here and be able to be like, all right, like out in the winter. I've seen them basking out on rocks with snow on the ground and stuff, you know. And you're like, wow, these badass little lizards. It'd be so fun to be able to maintain those and learn more about them, but it's kind of hard to do here. So maybe there'd be some way to change that at some point in the future, but it can be a little bit challenging. Well, I feel like I've been asking all of the questions. I want to make sure Roy gets a little bit of a word in edgewise. Go for it.
I think this has been great. Let me bring up our question sheet here because I don't have one top of mind.
Cool.
But I've got some in our queue. Well, this is kind of one that we've asked before, but that I really like is just like, what are your personal inspirations, like within herpetoculture, but also it could be outside of herpetoculture, like people that influence you or inspire you in the way that you do things. Is there anyone that comes to mind or anything that comes to mind?
The first person I would think about is Brian, because he just ignited me, for want to say like that. He just started a big part of my life actually. So I really have to say Brian. But other than that, I really always looked up to people who like went all the way with something. I'm also other hobbies for me are drumming. I'm also a drummer, so I drum in the band
cool.
Oh, that's
for a couple
great.
of years. So I have a lot of artists I look up to. Those people also were like, they play music their whole life. They tour around the world just to do one thing. So they spend their whole life mastering something. And it's the same also with tennis. I love tennis. I love playing tennis. So like, I'm a big fan of Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal, and they're like gods to me because they also spend their life mastering one thing. So that's something I love, and I always have been someone who looks up to like these idols. I really idolized a lot of people. And when it comes to reptiles, I think one person, but I don't know. I think I idolized him when I was young. Was I don't know if I think you know it's Eric Bianca. You know Eric Bianca?
Yeah, I do.
He's like he did a lot of research in Australia most of the time about monitor lizards. And I don't know why, but I think when I was young, maybe when I was 10, 12, I don't know, I saw something of I read something about him, and it lasted a long time. And now I have some books of him because he has a really nice book. It's called Lizards, which
I have that one.
It's an amazing book. And he has always been, I think they call him the Lizard King, also the Lizard Man. I don't know.
The Lizard Man.
Unfortunately, I think he passed away last year. But he was something, I don't know. He was like the Roger Federer of lizards. I would.
Yeah.
He was the one who spent his life in the Australian desert and yeah, thinking about lizards and researching them. So I really always looked up to these people, and also like, of course, like the Steve Irwins of the world and the David Attenboroughs of the world. They bring out the message to the people, to the broader audience. So they have been an inspiration. Who else? I have to. Yeah, I think Bianca is like the first one who really comes to mind when it comes to like herpetologists.
I'm actually reading one of his books right now.
Oh, which one?
It's called The Lizard Man Speaks, and it's by him.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like an autobiography of his.
I would love to read that.
It's amazing. Yeah, that book that you mentioned. It's Lizards, Windows to the Evolution of Diversity. I think it is with Lori Vitt. Yeah, and those two are just really
Lori Vitt is also like the big herpetology book.
Yeah,
it's amazing. It's like also like a Bible.
Yeah.
It's a book
that lizards book is really, it's part of a series actually, and the one on snakes is by Harry Green, and that's like my favorite reptile book out there. It's just a really amazing book. It's called Snakes: The Evolution of Mystery in Nature by Harry Green. And
I'll spend some money later this night.
Yeah. I highly recommend it. It's just Harry Green. I'd love to reach out to him to have him on the show at some point. He's another hero of mine, but he has just like a really soulful approach to his love of herps and herpetology, and has a really good way of like speaking to this thing that we are always are touching on, this kind of immutable quality of why we do this, why is it so important, why is it so fascinating to us. He's really good at articulating that.
Okay.
That's
look into that.
It's great.
Yeah, we gotta have just an episode just about books at some point.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about, I have like a small YouTube channel, but I'm not absolutely not good in making things. No, I absolutely don't promote my YouTube channel because it's working. But I've been.
It's over now. You have to now. What's the handle?
No. Let that be a note to the listeners. Don't go look at Sam's YouTube channel.
But I've been thinking about. I have a nice collection of reptile books, but there are way more reptile books. But I've been thinking about making these short videos of like showing people what's in the book, just like the table of how you call it, the table of content.
Table of contents.
Yeah, and like make 1 minute videos of books I have. So to show people if they want to see what's inside, what's inside the book, because I'm always interested in books. It would be really cool to like make these short videos about different reptile books. So definitely an episode about books is something I would listen to.
Yeah, we should do that at Project Herpetoculture reading list. Yeah.
Maybe a reading club.
Yeah. Roy's book club. That'd be so fun.
There we go.
That'd be really great. Well, so what does I have another question too, which is what does the future look like for you, Sam? Like what, I know you sort of outlined a little bit of what you want to do in your own private keeping, but do you have different goals through your work with the zoo, or what are some of your aspirations, if any?
My goals, I think, at the zoo, it's reaching our full potential. Try to reach our full potential when it comes to conservation and education. We have a great team to go into the future with, to start the future with. So I think we can do a lot to reach our full potential when it comes to like conservation for species who really need it, to preservation of species, but also a lot to education. I'm really a big believer in education. You can do, you have to imagine we have like more than a million, probably more than a million visitors every year. So you can do so much with a reptile building. So a reptile building with all the people, if you can only like, if you can like educate only 10%, it's still like 100,000 people. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So like Brian told, I've been doing repticamps, and they have like reached out already, of they have like through the workshop they have inspired like 60,000 children already. They talked about that. It's like around 60,000 children they had done workshops with and camps with. So they're doing an amazing job, and they're doing like a real workshop. So it has probably a bigger impact because they get to touch animals and get to interact with the animals. But I think at the zoo we can do way more to educate people and to really make them think about the actions they are doing, but also make like the young inspiring the young coming herpetologists and herpetoculturists to also give them something they need. And I think we can do a lot more there. I don't know how. There are a lot of interactive ways to do that, or maybe also through social media, make more content about what we do in the zoo. And but I think we have a big potential there. And we, like I said, we have a great team to work with. So that's the start. If you don't have a great team, you can forget about all that.
Sure.
And
yeah, of course.
for myself, I think I'm going to look more into like the outdoor keeping, and maybe talk a bit more about that when it's the time is ready. And yeah, I think education. I want to do more with education. We were almost joking about like this program for like young herpetoculturists to like follow a course, but I think it should be possible. And I have the blessing. I have the, how do you, my English is so bad, man.
Not bad at all, I assure you.
Yeah, but
No, it's great.
okay, but I'm fortunate to know Brian and Lara, and they're already doing a lot of like this educational stuff. So I think it's something that we might do something in the future with that too. Maybe I'd have to talk to Brian to that, but he's always excited when we talk about stuff. So, but I think that it's possible, but it should be in the future. Maybe if they, Brian also talked about they would like to have a center, to like build a center to do all their educational programs, and maybe like an educational program for like young herpetoculturists would be something. And I would love to teach that. I also not saying that I'm the person with all the knowledge, but I'm very passionate about it, so I can at least transfer my passion and maybe a way of thinking also, and use my background of teaching biology and geography in that way. But that's something from the future. I don't know if it's possible, but education is really something that's close to my heart. So that's the way to go for me.
Wow, that's brilliant.
That's awesome.
I love that answer.
Really inspiring.
And meet as most people as possible. Like talking to you guys now, I think it's amazing that's possible. So
it's amazing. Also,
so anyone who wants to reach out to me, I don't know for what, just to talk, or just also has things they want to do. If you want to visit the zoo, people who want to visit the zoo, always let me know. I'm more than pleased to give you a tour and talk about reptiles, amphibians, and everything. So always welcome.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. Absolutely, that's great. Okay, well, so then I suppose this might be, because first of all, that's a great answer, but also we're creeping right on 2 hours here of conversation. So, Roy, are you, as long as you're comfortable with it, is that, want to go ahead and throw out the closer, as it were?
Yeah. So you listen to our show, so you know the big question that we like to ask. So yeah, for you, Sam, why herpetoculture?
Yeah, didn't see that coming. No. I try to prepare a little bit an answer of for it, but I think it comes to two things. On the one hand, it's like we have this love and this interest in reptiles and amphibians and arthropods. Also, I also love beetles. I also breed some exotic beetle species.
Awesome.
That's
Very cool.
That's one thing. But like I said, going in nature is something I love to do and search for reptiles, but it doesn't do everything for me. It's not so it's also like the designing and the tinkering and like the spatial design and that's the other part for me. Like always, and I have like here at my desk I have a lot of notebooks. I always love to buy more notebooks just to sketch and draw and write stuff down, and I have been doing that since I was a young child. Always I had like these booklets, like the terrarium draw book I call it, and I had like this millimeter paper, like and I was drawing like I was 10 years. My friends were like talking about games, and I was like drawing this terrariums and these exhibits, and so I think it's the combination of like the reptiles, the love for the animals, and then like the whole designing and thinking thing that makes it so exciting. And especially with the technology that's getting better and better, and then maybe if we get more if we get our hands on more different plant species, we can, like you are trying Roy, with keep exhibits with species from the native range of your animals. There are things that are amazing, and systems like I don't know how to say this, but make it as complex and more the most naturalistic that's possible. And I think the combination of the two is what makes it so amazing.
Yeah, damn,
Really,
that's a great
the
answer.
designing and the tinkering part, and it's really real because a lot of my family, so my father, my sister, my mother, we're all into like spatial design, like interior design. My father is like renovate stores and like design stores. My mother is a graphic designer. My sister is really into interior design. So we all like creating things. I think it's something genetic maybe. And with me, it's not only, I also like interior design, also like that's the kind of stuff. But I have also the love for reptiles, and I can combine those two in herpetoculture. So I think it's the best thing in the world, and it's an addiction and it's a disease.
There's that.
It's a virus.
Shout out to Philip Tremper on that one.
Yeah.
It's a mental disorder. No, that's awesome. What a great answer. Well, I didn't even know. We're gonna have to. Obviously, we'll have to have you back on multiple times for various reasons, but we'll have to put a little note and remember next time we got to ask you about those beetles. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
Yeah,
too.
There's also a big beetle breeding community.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it's like, I think it originated in Japan. Japan is really like the beetle Valhalla. Beetles a lot. I have tattoos of beetles on my arms, so I'm a big fan of different kind of beetles, like this Japanese rhinoceros beetles I'm breeding now, and then like other African species. So it's something really, you should start keeping and breeding beetles. It's amazing.
Well, I have quite the mealworm colony. Okay, so there's a lot of beetles. I am way ahead of you. Way ahead of you.
You've got way more beetles than I did.
I got a lot of beetles. No, that's true. That's awesome. I definitely like beetles and mantids are things that have always intrigued me. Is something. So maybe that's another thing we're gonna have to do. We're gonna have to get some folks on here who are into some insects and maybe not arachnids. We don't need any more of that crap. I'm just kidding. I'm just I'm just playing around.
That's definitely one of my ambitions for the podcast in 2023 is to get some more arthropod keepers on here.
Hell yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, sick.
Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe, and perhaps Sam, maybe you can off the show, you can at some point give us some recommendations of folks that you follow in that niche, because I wouldn't even have any idea where to begin.
Oh, I can give you a lot of information about people who keep different kind of insects, so that's no problem, of course.
Okay, great. Yeah, hell yeah. Okay, awesome. Well, where
can folks find you, Sam?
Oh yeah. That's
on social media and all that.
Yeah.
They can find me at Aneca Terra. So it's just my last name, Aneca _Terra it is.
Yeah, that's right.
They can find me there. They can find me on Facebook, just Sam Aneca, if you want to say it in English. They can find me there. Don't go to my YouTube channel.
Don't do that.
But they can always get in touch. I'll probably get in touch with a lot of people in the future, because I've been really inspired by the podcast. I want to say it again, like the podcast with I think Herpetoculture.
Yeah. Really,
about the tenets. I've been rewriting like the tenets for our zoo. I've been trying to write. Cool. It's so cool to make these thinking exercises. So I'm also gonna reach out to the, I don't know what his name is from Herpetoculture.
Billy.
Billy.
Well, I have to reach out to him and get some feedback. But people also always can contact me if they want about anything.
Yeah.
That is it. Yeah.
On my water model. Also, he is also responsible for that too. That sticker, Improbable. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a graphic designer. Yeah.
One of our sponsors, Tortoise Supply. There you go.
he all designed that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't think Billy designed that. I just meant that I just was going over this.
Oh yeah. It's a sponsor. Yeah. Cool.
Oh yeah, and then look at that. There's a Euromastix right there. Wait.
Oh, look at that.
All right.
Never enough Euromastics.
Yeah. Well, I get in trouble talking about Euros too much and then jiu-jitsu too much. Those are the two things I just can't get enough of.
No, you don't. No one.
Oh no, I definitely do. Maybe not. Not on the show, but not
offline.
Not in actual trouble, but it's like a running joke among my friends who don't do jiu-jitsu. It's like, oh, another jiu-jitsu metaphor coming, huh? Cool. and when I'm at jiu-jitsu, it's like, you're the dude with the lizards, right? And I'm like, yes, I am. Yeah. Guy with the lizards and tortoises and all kinds of crap, all kinds of random strange animals. But yeah, anyway,
we all gotta have our niche.
Yeah, right. That's exactly right. So let me hit the let me stop the recording here.